Hello, my friends, and welcome to a very soon after the last one, Positive Wrestling podcast. But I didn't get to talk about Full Gear AEW yesterday because I got up, I did the ups and downs over on What Culture, and then I had to zoom to Progress Wrestling to get my ass beat in a four-way. I still won, thank goodness, but my word. And thankfully, Scott has seen the pay-per-view, and Scott had this morning free, so we're like, screw it, we're going to do it. Scott, how are we doing today?
I'm good, Simon. How are you feeling? 3-on-1 at Progress. That is very good.
I know. If anyone doesn't know the story, it's like it was a fatal four-way, but yeah, they're all a team. So somebody had to get beaten up the entire time. And that was me. And apparently there's some hilarious gifts coming, so I'll share them as soon as I got them. But I did wake up at the crack of dawn yesterday, which is why my voice is a little bit hoarse, to watch AEW Full Gear. The first thing I'm going to say is I'm just going to get it out there, because that way it's done. They're just too long. They're too long for me. That doesn't mean they're not too long for somebody else. People go, oh, but I got value for money. That's awesome. That's wonderful. Now, I pay for AEW pay-per-views. I mean, obviously, I can claim it off my tax bill as a content creator who is also a sole trader, but it still comes out of my, money that I would spend on stuff. And I think I would still feel, that they're worth the money take 2 or 3 matches off of the thing, especially because I think there are a few matches you could do on Dynamite that would be brilliant. Like, we'll go through the card, so I'll talk about it then. But that's the first thing I wanted to throw out there, because it's just how I feel at this point. I think less is more, and that's all I've got to say about it, really. I would prefer shorter pay-per-views. I just would.
Yeah, I know. I totally agree. It's long. We talked about this after Wembley, didn't we? That because you were there, you felt biased, almost like it just flew by.
That is true. That was true, yes. Yeah.
But when you are sitting kind of in our world on a Sunday morning, and if, for example, for you, it's content. So you're having to just go, I got to see it all because I need to know what's happening.
Yeah.
But it's like saying to someone every 3 days, watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And you're going to go, can I not just zap past it? No, because you might miss something that needs to be talked about. You're like, okay. And then you just stare at it. And I think that's what's kind of happening, not necessarily with wrestling across the board, but I think the pay-per-views for AEW particularly. And again, we've talked about this loads of times. WWE do 4 matches or something now. It's like a UPW card. And then we, and they go up against AEW, and AEW are running 300 matches. So I get it's, is it horses for courses? Is that a word? Is that a thing?
Well, it is. I mean, I guess it's great in that sense. If you really like the way that WWE does it, you're getting it in a very, specific way.
Yeah.
And if you like the AEW way, you're getting it in a very specific way. And maybe there's probably a happy medium, because look, for a bit of parity, sometimes I watch a WWE show and go, oh, you could have given me an extra match. And I actually would have been totally cool with that. Yeah. Like, that would have been fine. But I just want to throw it out there because it's just something. That way we don't have to talk about it now. We've done it. It's out. It's done. Shout out to Ariel Assassin, who says, have you seen the Continental Classic lineup? It looks good this year. I did see it. Have you seen it, Scott? It's pretty good.
They haven't done what they
no. So they released it yesterday on Selection Sunday. I know. Why didn't they release it on the pay-per-view? I have no idea. Okay. But they do their thing. In one way, I respect the fact they have so much faith in social media. I mean, a modern company probably should, but also talk about it on your pay-per-view. But I mean, it's not like last year. I'm doing this off the top of my head, but it's like a who's who. So Ospreay's in it. Carl Fletcher's in it, which makes sense. Okada's in it. Ricochet's in it. The Beast Mortis is in it. I popped at that. I was like, yes, put the Beast Mortis in it. Claudio's in it. There's some other really. I mean, there's some big. It feels like a big hitter tournament. It got me excited when I looked at it. I was like, you could absolutely have built this better. But when I think one of the matches is actually Shelton Benjamin versus Okada. They're in the same bracket. And when I saw that, I was like, that's the kind of thing I want in my life. When did I ever think I was going to get Shelton? In 2024, I did not think that Shelton Benjamin versus Okada was going to be on my bingo card or my Continental Classic card. So no, it is really good. That's true. Daniel Garcia's in it as well. I'm going to say this. I'm being too negative on the Positive podcast. It annoyed me a little bit that Daniel Garcia was in it because he just won the TNT title. And I was like, don't put him in it. Let him. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's my little bugbear because he has to lose and he'll still be the champion. And it's like the Cody and Gunther thing.
Yeah.
Cody beats Gunther, but he's not the champ. It's just my weird OCD brain. I just think if you beat the champion, you should be a champion. It's just what I think. Anyway, we'll go through the show. Let's talk about it. We'll be very, very quick on this. The pre-show stuff that set the internet on fire with AJ, Big Boom, Justice, and the Rizzler. I can't remember their names. I love it, man. I really love it because I can't help but watch it like It's a family who have blown up on TikTok, probably got a mega deal with Costco, and then got, can we just get into wrestling? And they did it. Like, I don't care if it did do numbers. It's the third most watched social media clip in all of wrestling this year. It's like Undertaker returns, Joe Hendry, and then this, which is bonkers or something. It's something like, I can't remember, but it's.
Can you imagine someone saying that in 2012 to you, that they're the 3 biggest social media clips in 2024? It's so confusing.
It's so strange. But So it has done well, but even if nobody watched it, nobody cared. When I watch wrestling, that makes me feel good. Like, it's proper wholesome content. I'm like, I don't even care, man. Do it more. And also, wrestling has always done this. It's not the best comparison because people go, that was crap. It wasn't. RoboCop was in WCW. If RoboCop could be in WCW, you can get a bunch of TikTok stars and put them in your pre-show. I also think QT Marshall is an incredible professional wrestler. I think he's so good. It's a thumbs up from me. I thought it was joyous.
Yeah, I totally agree. Again, we're 2 guys that are very positive. That's why we're on a positive wrestling podcast. But we're also people who love entertainment.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
In WWE, when, Mayweather fought the Big Show in a legitimate fight and he beat him with brass knuckles, we think that's great. Whereas other people go, oh, you took the spotlight for Justin Gabriel that year, or so, I don't know, something like that. And I'm very much for get eyeballs on your product. And I think it's something that it's just a detriment to yourself if you don't go with it, because they go, we don't want to be WWE light. WWE would go get Logan Paul. We don't want to go get a social media star. Screw that. Why would you negatively affect your business because you don't want to be similar to something? If the Costco guys, and also I think he's an ex-indie wrestler, isn't he? Like
back in like the turn of the century, he was wrestling all the time, so he knows what he's doing. He's got chops, I
think he was on Kimmel or somewhere this week. They're like, and
they got on Jimmy Kimmel or one of the late night shows. Yeah. Why would you? And all they did was talk about AEW. Yeah. They're amazing. They're so good.
Exactly. And the Rizzler's pointing at his jaw. I think he does that. And I mean, he hit a hell of a spear. I mean, it might be one of the better spears in the business. But
because he's so short, he kept on his feet too. It was so good. I enjoyed every second of this. I thought it was wonderful.
Yeah, I thought it was just really good. And like I said, you said, shout out to QT. Doing
as a wrestler.
Yeah, doing the honors for it as well, understanding what it was. And also, people go, there's probably some guys that don't fully get it, who are walking around going, I'm sorry you had to do that tonight. And he's obviously smart enough to go, this is the 3rd biggest social media clip of the year. Do you know who didn't know who QT Marshall was earlier today? 1 million people. And now 1 million new people know who I am. So it's just good business.
I don't know whether it was cumulatively or on YouTube, but there is a total number of 10.4 million viewers. That was yesterday. So 10.4 million viewers, just your QT Marshall have the most entertaining over-the-top match with a bunch of Costco guy. I think it's great. That's wrestling to me. It just is, and it always will be.
And also he's big. He's large. Like, he's not unbelievable. Like, it's not like...
he had like a proper 1980s just come in the territory body, like just thick. I would never get that kind of body. I say this as positive. I mean this as positive as possible. But if I held that kind of weight, I would just look fat and awful. Yeah. He just looked like a tank. He just looked like he was going to kill you. He holds it like, oh man, I'm going to beat you up.
Like Dino Bravo in his prime.
Yeah. I think he should take on John Moxley. I think for him against John Moxley.
I agree.
Yeah, let's do it. Shout out to Get Some Help, who says the legend Simon see these comments. Yes, we see the comments, so make sure you throw them in the TikTok. And the kid hit the spear harder than Roman Reigns. Do you know what? Sometimes, yes, that's true. That's true. Pay-per-view then started. It was the 4-way tag, Outrunners Private Party, Knights of the Black Throne, and the Acclaimed. I thought it was a fun match. I thought it was fine. Like, I don't think there's much to talk about. Sadly, actually, I think the only discussion point is slightly negative, so you have to forgive me. I think the problem with AEW pay-per-views is I just know every match is going to be good because their talent they're all brilliant workers. Yeah. There's not a bad worker amongst them. But no, you know what? It wasn't a bad thing. It was a shame because I like the fact that we at least we chose a direction. Okay, we're going to break up the Acclaimed and we're going to start teasing all of that. But it did kind of make Private Party feel like they were just like background noise. Yeah. And that was a shame after their big win against the Young Bucks. It's not going to make a big difference in the grand scheme of things. But I knew it was a point. Because when I feel that, and then you sort of start talking to other people, and they go, "Oh yeah, you're right." You're like, "Okay, well, this is actually sort of spurned out of just my silly opinion." I wanted the Outrunners to win. I keep seeing people go, "Oh, but they're a one-note comedy act. One-note comedy acts are my favorite thing in all of wrestling. Why is that a problem?" People act like this is like a bad thing. One-night comedy acts are wonderful. His name was Santino Marella, and he made me laugh every single time. But I get it. Private party win. And yeah, what we've really done is sown the seeds for the Acclaim to break up, which I am intrigued about because, I mean, Max Caster will be the heel, Anthony Bowens will be the face. I think they both have upside to them, but we have seen other people get lost in the shuffle in AEW. So I hope that doesn't happen, especially with Anthony Bowens, because I think Anthony Bowens is a cool story, and I think he's really developed over the last few years. And I actually think if you gave him some more mic time, I think he can talk. But we never really. All he really does is the catchphrase stuff, which I do get. So I'm intrigued by it. I like it, but I just hope that this doesn't become they break up and then they have the feud and they vanish. That would be a real shame.
I think as well with the tag teams, we all naturally go to who's the Jannetty and who's the Michaels.
I know, it's so stupid.
I know it's a bit of old hat, but I think the only thing we can take from that is I think we all naturally sense who the guy who's going to do better is, and it's usually the heel of the two. When we looked at Edge and Christian, everyone thought Edge was the big star. They're both huge stars. When you look at the Hardy Boys, we all knew Jeff was the giant star. I mean, Matt's got one of the best minds in wrestling, and he's done stuff later in his career that was, if anything, actually revolutionized the way in which they produce wrestling with the deletion stuff. So even though we can see it, we can all look at it and go, Max Caster will be fine. He's going to be a great heel. And we all worry about Bowens. But I think we realize that people, they're a lot more talented. They were just playing the shtick. So Anthony Bowens is playing to the best of his ability that role of Anthony Bowens in the Acclaimed. We don't know what he does when that removes and he has his own thoughts. He might do something completely out of left field. And we might see new gear, new look, new style, new everything. So I do worry. I know your sentiment's right. I do worry a little bit, as we do with every tag team. What was it that Vince?
That's
called?
Always been the way. Yeah.
Yeah, Vince used to call Christian something. Was it creepy? CLB.
We actually called him. And then they put it on TV with a blue dot.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So we all naturally feel it. Like we always joke in the Brothers Or that Joe is the Michaels and I'm the Jannetty. But I like to think he's more Jeff, I'm more Matt. And maybe later in the career I'll do something. But because it really hurts me when we're in tag matches, and sometimes I'm getting heat, and they go, "Let's go, Joe," and I'm like, "I'm the one face down here. Could you quickly?" And then sometimes he's doing the opposite, and they go, "Let's go, Joe," and I'm about to do the hot tag. So
I can see the seeds. We're planting the seeds. Brothers all going to break up.
So we all naturally see it, but no, I do think he's got so much talent, and like you said, a real story, and he's got that real emotion. I think he will be able to do it. It's just whether he got enough equity is space to do it in AEW. I don't know, because they have a lot of talent. So
they do. They really, really do. And the only issue I have with the Marty Jannetty Shawn Michaels thing is that Marty Jannetty would have been fine, but Marty Jannetty went off the rails.
Marty Jannetty's Marty Jannetty, yeah.
If Marty Jannetty was like, I'm just going to say it, a normal human being, I think it would have been fine. Because I look, just through my job, I have had to go back to so many times during that mid-90s, early 90s period. They bring him back constantly. They try and they don't get rid of him because he's bad. He's always brilliant. Because he does something crazy outside the ring. And they're like, you can't stay here. So that's why I actually think it's an unfair comparison, because people act like he wasn't talented.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's actually an argument to say that he was, not want to say he's more talented than Shawn Michaels, that's not right. But maybe in terms of sort of natural ability for wrestling, he may have actually been slightly in front, but Shawn Michaels brought everything else to the table too. Yeah. That is not me disparaging Shawn Michaels, but Mike Jannetty should have been just not world champion. He should have been just fine. But he's
he was also standing next to Shawn Michaels. I mean, that is the biggest detriment for anyone. Like, it's like being in a tag team with Will Ospreay and then going, now split up, and you're like,
you're changing the industry, right? Cool, yeah. Private party win. It was fine. It was a fun opening match. I had no problems with it. We then got to MJF Roderick Strong. Listen, I love MJF. He's one of my favorite wrestlers right now. People say, his promo shtick is so boring. Totally disagree. I think he knows who his character is, and I always enjoy it. I look forward to it. Roderick Strong, genuinely one of the best, we'll just go with workers for the last 20 years. Yeah. Honestly, you'll never find a bad match. Story makes no sense. I don't understand any of it. So even though I enjoyed the match for what it was, it didn't. I think it went like 11 minutes, something like that, 12 minutes. But after they win, and I like the fact that MJF just beat him, because I think there has to be hierarchy in wrestling. And as much as I like Roderick Strong, he's not on MJF's level. That's not me saying that. That's the way AEW have pitched them. So the fact that MJF, he cheats a bit, and he works on the fingers, then tap out with the armbar, perfect. That's good wrestling to me. I don't think sometimes we need to worry about winners or losers. We see it every week in the Premier League, right? Man City just lost 5 in a row. And if I had fantasy booked that a month ago, I'd be like, Simon, that's stupid. Yeah, but it happened. Because that's cool. And AEW does sort of have some, not as much these days, but still a little bit of a sports feel. So you absolutely can do it that way. But then Adam Cole comes out too late, which made me laugh, to his music. So
I love that.
He was late because he pushed play. I don't mind wrestling tropes. But then Kyle O'Reilly comes out after the Dynamite thing and says, oh, you're responsible. Two things. One, Roderick Strong only did this because you made him. So that's just crapping on Roderick Strong and saying he's not a good enough wrestler to be MJF. And two, why does Kyle O'Reilly care? Why do you care? Like, it was the Undisputed Kingdom. Listen, I understand the injuries. Moreover, I'm so happy that Adam Cole is back more than anything, because I don't think people quite understand what he went through. So the fact he's even having matches, I don't care if he comes out and he's Banana Man. Who cares? I just love the fact that he's back. But then when you have Kyle O'Reilly say, oh, you're bad. I know you need to think smarter than this. It's like, yes, but dude, I can't forget what happened. They were the ones that screwed over MJF. So my point is, I understand they have to retcon all of this. And they've actually done as good a job as you can when someone's been out for 18 months. But at least what points do we have? Well, originally Adam Cole was the heel. So whatever we do now, let's just stay away from anything that would make it weird. And unless Kyle O'Reilly is lying and he's going to go bad guy, which I don't think is the case, the story just doesn't make any sense. And this is coming from me, who loves everything. But when I sit there and I go, right, let me figure this out, and I don't get it, it does then have a detriment on the match, because you're trying to figure out all the parts and you're like, it's just not working. And again, I've not heard one person say that it is working. Usually you'll get, and I'm more power to these people, I love them, be like, no, he's my guy and I'm with him. Yeah. All I get is people going, yeah, I don't really understand what's going on. And we know why, but I think they've overcomplicated the pudding. We should have just kept it super simple, and we haven't.
Yeah, I think as well, like with tribalism in wrestling, like you were saying, going, he's my guy, this makes sense. I think we can all agree, like, we're Arsenal fans. I love Arsenal, but we had Mustafi at one point. And I can be honest with that. And do you know what I mean? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you can kind of be like, yeah, this isn't, sitting right. I think with this, genuinely, in hindsight, and hindsight is obviously 2020, but what you said last week, I think it was I can't even remember the actress, the one that brought attention to her house on the newspapers.
Oh, Barbara Streisand. Yeah, the Barbara Streisand effect. Yeah,
I think almost just keep MJF, Adam Cole, everything, and just go, it never happened. And every time they say it, go, I don't know what you're on about. And just because they're trying to make sense of it, but time's moved on. It's like, when I grew up, I was actually having this conversation with someone who's very good in wrestling right now. And we were talking about kind of the way you look at it when you're going to get to the main roster. And you play this as a wrestler. In 2010, when I was starting to wrestle, I had images of working Rey Mysterio in not his prime, but, close to. By the time you get to 2014, you've had 100 plus matches. You go, I want to be, I'd love it if the brothers all got to the WWE and, here's the Wyatt family. I want to be involved in that story, or Daniel Bryan's rise. I can't have those same feelings as the years pass, because things change. This is the only analogy I can make sense of it.
I get it.
A year and a half changed. So much changed. You don't go back to it. It doesn't make sense anymore. It was a really good story. It got derailed because of a bad injury. That's unfortunate. Let's carry on. It's like when you see, someone that sticks to the same exact, maybe gimmick, 5-10 years too long, because they're like, it's really good, trust me. And it's like, well, if it's really good, we might have seen it already. Like, it's like, try something else. And I think with this, I think they've gone too long, and it's overdone it. And they're trying to make sense of it, bless them. But it's not for me. I think they should just move on and just wash their hands.
Well, they should have just done MJF versus Adam Cole on this show, and then pick who you want to win, and then that's a great way to blow off a feud. I don't understand why we had to include Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick. I just don't get it. I really don't. Like, that's the problem. I really try, because I respect the hell out of all of them. They've all had incredible careers. And also, I'm not going to lie, because I really like Adam Cole, I don't like how much hate he gets on the internet for his physique. I think it's really mean. Like, I know people disagree with me with this. You're allowed to, by the way. I looked into TikTok's face. You really are. Listen, I go to the gym 6 times a week. I absolutely love it. A bodybuilder essentially. But I still think if somebody wants to come out and not train in wrestling, of course you can say you don't like it and you'd rather he did. But it's when it gets really personal, I don't like it. So I really do root for Adam Cole. but there isn't logic to this. It's like you say, it's just bless them for not wanting to be WWE circa 2015.
Yeah.
It's like, what happened to that story? Oh, we just stopped doing it, did we? But I think you should be allowed to get away with it after 18 months. You just should be. And for all companies, you should be allowed to go, he was taken out for a year and a half, and therefore you can just do whatever you want. You literally can. But it has to make sense, and this doesn't make sense at all. So yeah, it was what it was. I don't know what we're going to do now either.
I was going to say, what are your opinions on the MJF? Obviously, his gimmick is he takes the low hanging fruit, but the comment about obviously Roddy's parents and him shooting movies and stuff. I'm gonna actually make not a stand. I get the MJF gimmick. I like MJF. I like him as a person personally. There's certain things that Roddy obviously has gone, yeah, go for it, whatever. It's the same with Eddie and Ray and Randy. Ray and Randy, after Eddie passed, stuff they did. It's obviously accepted by the person. Obviously, Eddie couldn't accept it, but people around him said, yeah, I think he'd be fine with this. I just sometimes think, and the only thing that's in my head is, I remember there was a video, I think MJF does signings, and he sometimes like throws people's stuff. Like you throw a WWE title and stuff.
That made me laugh.
Yeah, I'm like half in there going, it's the gimmick, and then I'm like, it cost a lot, and I'm just like, I'm at a point where I'm 50-50 with now, like, all right, I get it. You can say the worst possible thing. It's equivalent to having a story with you and going, you're bald. I know that doesn't really.
That's what everyone does now, anyway, Scott.
Yeah, but it doesn't take any talent.
Wit.
It's like, come up with something really good. You know, say you're insecure. That's why you talk to a mic every day. Sorry, I've gone after you there.
Wait, stop, Scott.
But you know what I mean? Like something like, do you think, that makes people go, is he? You know, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, you question it. Don't go for that clear thing. Go for something that could be, I don't know, out of left field and more intelligent, and something that you can go, you've added another wrinkle to their character and your own. I just think at this point, it's like people joke when Ricochet joined, people wrote out the exact promo, and he even responded going, I'll use that. And it's like, because it's just the same promo. It's like Mad Libs. Just changed the more offensive thing that we've heard on the internet about that person and changed the name. And then there's the promo. So I think at this point, I want to see him do something else. But I mean, probably not smart to say this on this podcast by me, because he probably might see it. But I just think that would be interesting.
But no, I think it's fair criticism. I'm not sure I 100% agree, just because the throwing on the title on the floor, I put on the person that gave him the title. If you don't know by now, it's like going into a burger restaurant and wanting pizza. It's like, what did you expect to happen? Like, what did you expect to happen? I do think you make an interesting point. I haven't got there yet. It could be because he's very good at taking breaks. So it's interesting you brought that up now, without wanting to go too much on a tangent. The reason I didn't like the Eddie Guerrero stuff is you hit the nail on the head. Eddie Guerrero couldn't say yes. Yeah. And every time I heard Rey Mysterio and Randy Orton talked about it, they were like, I didn't really want to do that. So you're like, oh, well, that's not cool. Yeah. Whereas Roderick Strong had to have gone, yes, Max, use it. You had to. He probably suggested it, let's be honest, right? Yeah. And
they did use it in NXT, by the way. They did bring this all up in NXT. It's not something he's, not wanting to talk about.
And that's it. And so I think I kind of have to fall on my sword here, because I've always said, as long as everybody agrees and everybody is happy, absolutely. You go absolutely nuts. And then I do think, like, let's say we were involved in a storyline and I died. I actually think I would want you to use. I do, because I think it would be funny. That's the worst thing I'll ever say. But I want to point out too, that doesn't mean that I always like it as a fan. Sometimes it's too much for me, but I think it's justified as long as everybody is good with it. And that's where the lines get blurred a little bit, because again, the Eddie stuff, I have no idea. The man, I don't think. The thing is, though, there's a caveat to that too, because when they did it with the Paul Bearer stuff, it was his family that was like, oh, he would love it. And then that's different again, because you could see it in their faces, like, you really mean this. It's a hard one. Like, for example, when we did all the stuff with Jeff Hardy, when he was going through his issues, apparently Jeff was cool with it, but I didn't like that, because I was like, well, this doesn't feel like something we should be showcasing on television. So it's a very, very interesting point, but I'm not there yet with MJF. Doesn't mean that I won't be one day. And maybe I'm just super biased. I don't know. He's like one of my favorites. So
I'm not there with him either. I'm just interested by like the takes.
No, I think... No, like, you're not the only person to say it. So I do think there's a conversation to be had there, for sure. Hopefully when he comes back and he's done it with his movies, he can be more invested, which I totally understand. I mean, shooting a movie is really hard, so you can't be 100% invested. The point is, we need to change everybody's direction with this storyline.
Yeah, get them away from each other.
Yeah, absolutely. TBS title match, Mercedes Moné versus Chris Statlander. Didn't realise this was the longest women's match in AEW history. So that was nice. That was cool. Yeah. Right. It went over 20 minutes, I think. So that kind of makes sense.
That's mad that 20 minutes is the longest.
Well, when would you do it? Have to be on pay-per-view. And actually,
how'd you fit it in?
Only, I think, two matches went above 20 minutes because you have to fit 12 matches in. So there's no time. But I loved this match. I think it was Mercedes Moné's best match, maybe that or the Willow match. I think Chris Statlander is sorely underutilized. I think it's such a shame we just turned her face with that story. I think we could have really, really sort of gone on. I just thought it was great. The back and forth, the teases. I mean, maybe it lacked a bit of jeopardy because I never actually thought Mercedes Moné would lose the title at this stage. It didn't feel like the right time. But in terms of just a match back and forth, oh, I loved it. I thought this was I thought it was the best match of the night so far, and I think it came at the perfect time in the pay-per-view. I was like, here we go. This is the kind of stuff I expect from an AEW show. The rest was all fine, but this just took it up to a next level. Really good stuff. And I'm a big Mercedes Moné fan. I don't get the criticism. I just don't get it. And again, you're allowed to have it, but I see people saying she can't do this, she can't do that, and then she's yelling at Camille for not killing someone in a car, and I'm laughing my ass off. I'm like, I am a big fan of Mercedes Moné.
No, I fully agree. I think it's definitely our best match. I think they're not missing a trick. I think they're doing just fine. But Chris Statlander, I think, has real crossover potential, massive. She feels like the AEW equivalent of a Rhea. I think she's on that kind of trajectory of, you know, when like the Four Horsewomen are still around, but we all saw Rhea and went, oh God, and like Bianca. But Rhea particularly, you thought, is she kind of better than, like, or not necessarily better, but just kind of bigger than all of it? And I feel like Statlander at the minute is kind of to one side while Mercedes and kind of Mariah and Tony are doing their thing. And I feel like she's coming in from the side. She might be the biggest star, not just in the women. She might be one of the biggest stars the company has. They just need to do it, you know, be very careful with each part. But I mean, she has that feel like, you know, when you look online the day after pay-per-view, certain things stand out. You go, oh, okay, those are the things that stuck. One of the things that stuck on this pay-per-view was just Chris Statlander generally. That's all I was seeing, people talking about Chris Statlander. Different pictures, different videos, you know, silliness that you get on like X. But it was all just there. It was with three other things, and it was Big Justice and the little lad. And then it was Moxley, people thinking he actually scratched Orange Cassidy's.
So funny.
I've got a good story about that as well, to do with Mox, of that exact thing and how funny that people believe that he opened him up. But those are the things that kind of stuck. And then the MJF comment. So, you know, there's good, sense, you know, all of them are kind of, I'd say of the four things, three of them are very Marmite. People online are going to go, I hate that about wrestling. And then people go, I love that about wrestling. The only one that everyone could probably go, yeah, she's a star, is Chris Statlander. Yeah. So I think of all those things, the one that's 100% positive is Statlander. And the fact that she, you know, on a 12-match card, and what do we all say on the last pay-per-view? Her and Willow stole the show. They had to follow Ospreay. So something's happening. Willow as well is another one, but I really think Chris Statlander is a superstar in the making, and they really need to capitalize on it.
I agree. She lost here. She was always going to lose. But again, I didn't mind that Mercedes just beat her. I really don't, Simon. I'm not saying that we can't have heel tactics, and too many heels on this show. I think that's fair. But maybe it's me. Maybe I'm wrong. I totally accept that. I just like it when you get to a pay-per-view like this and it feels more like sports. Oh, you lost this time. Oh, what are you going to do? How are you going to make it up? That is a story to me. And you should be able to get in, but really good. Get Some Help says, do you guys feel AEW could benefit from a draft using their two big shows similar to Raw and SmackDown? I hate drafts, personally. I don't like them at all. What do you think?
I love a draft, but I don't like whatever comes of it.
That's what, yeah.
I like the, for the night.
yeah, me too. I like the fun of it, but I hate pretending that they're going to be on shows when I don't want that. I want the story to win in wrestling.
Yeah.
So if you need Will Ospreay on Collision, just put him on Collision. Don't go, well, there's a magical barrier.
Yeah, he's not allowed.
I hate it. It doesn't work for me. But that's just my opinion.
I love GM mode, so I think for me that's like the ultimate.
I get you.
I love that kind of, and I think if it was done correctly, and I've said this for the longest time, I think the only time it's ever been done correctly was 2016 when WWE brought it back. I thought that was actually one of the best things they ever did, was that draft, and they actually stuck to it for a period of time, because we all remember the new set and Braun Strowman got brought away from the Wyatts, and we all went, why him, not Luke Harper? We couldn't believe it. But then he started to beat up everyone. James Ellsworth became a thing. You think of the SmackDown that time, AJ Styles, Dean Ambrose, and these B pay-per-views in B towns like, Mobile, but they were like really good. And then Raw was kind of cracking on with their thing with Seth Rollins and all these things. So they created a lot of stars in that time. And if anything, a lot of them have ended up in AEW because that was when Pac was on one side, Claudio was on one side. It was very AEW centric, but in hindsight.
Yeah.
But so I like a draft. I think if AEW did it correctly and they made the shows as big as each other and they actually kept them separate and they really changed the presentation.
Yeah,
I'm fine with it because then the pay-per-views, you could have 8 matches and you don't see an Ospreay pay-per-view match for 2 or 3 months. I'm happy with that because
what's a good shout. Yeah, I agree with that.
But again, I said 2016, that worked for 9 months. Name anywhere that's actually stuck to it, and then every year you do a draft and some trades. I think honestly, in football, one of the most exciting things is transfers. In NBA, the draft, the NFL, the draft is so fun. They could utilize it because they can actually write the best stories for it. But I don't have any confidence they'll ever pull it off. So and that's not AEW, that's any wrestling company. So I'm against it, but I'm for it. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm for if it's done. I'm for if it's done right, but they won't do. Again, no one does it right. No one. New Japan, AEW, WWE, some indie promotion down the road. Nobody. Sean McKenzie says the brand split needs to be like it was back in the day where it meant something. I'm not sure it ever meant something because they never allowed it to. They always shifted too quickly. Originally, they did have the SmackDown 6 and stuff like that, but there was always little things that made you go, well, that's weird. Next match was Hangman Page versus Jay White. Thought it was good. I really did. Like, they're really good wrestlers. Jay White and Hangman probably don't get the play. Both of them could be face of the company. Really, really, really could. I know some people get on Jay White's case, but I think if you allowed, give him a bit more promos, probably turn him heel. I think he's a better heel than he is face. And Hangman and Page is just OG AEW badass as far as I'm concerned. It's almost, we're in a bit of a predicament that he is a bad guy, because I think if he was still a good guy, he'd be perfect to be. I think Darby Allin is a good choice, but I think Hangman probably a better choice to beat Moxley for that championship. I think that'd be wonderful. But that's not where we're at. That's not where the stories have taken us. I just thought it was a really, really good match. I like the fact that they fought before. I like the fact they relied on the injuries. And I like the fact that Jay White just beat him. And he beat him out of nowhere. Like, oh, there's an opportunity for the Blade Runner. Bam, and he gets him. I think it's the worst thing I'll ever say. So please forgive me, internet. And I know more. For the people that didn't like it, this is such a... I'm being an awful person. I am. But I mean it as nice as I can do. I think for people that actually wrestle, this match was probably more enjoyable than people that don't wrestle, because all the little things that they do and the chemistry they had, it's just, I'm like, wow, how are you doing that? How are you even pulling that off without making it look sort of, well, not real, I suppose, is the best way. The best way to play. I just think they're really, really, really credible workers. And again, I'm saying workers rather than wrestlers. So I mean their actual physical work they're doing. Yeah. Just at the moment, they kind of had a direction, which obviously we saw at the end of the show. But I think you could do more with both of them. That's just what it feels like to me. I think they're bigger than the position they're currently in.
Yeah, I do agree. I think they're the two stars of AEW that aren't quite being utilized in that role, even though they're getting involved in the main event and things like this. They just don't feel like they're being utilized right, especially Hangman. I think Hangman is their guy.
He's the boy. Yeah, I think he's their guy as well.
Yeah, and the character they're doing, I think, is really, I don't know what the word. Yeah, it's compelling, and it's, I don't know what the word to use is. It's really interesting to try and do what they're doing, because he's not a bad guy. It's kind of similar to what Woods is doing on Raw with New Day.
Yeah, he's got real intent. Like, his intentions are real. Yeah,
the intentions are real, and he makes a lot of sense. Like what we talked about Kevin Owens and stuff. He has validity to everything he's done, and all of it does make sense. But he's trying to help himself, but inadvertently he helps other people because he's got to help him. So people are like, well, he's selfish, so therefore he's a bad guy. And it's like, no, but in life, anyone that's on that AEW show has been selfish at one point to get to that level, as anyone has at any level of anything. So it's like, so it's very real. So I think it's a bit confusing with wrestling is very black and white. I think when you get in the grey, it's either going to be genius or people are going to go, I don't get it. And I don't think we know what the answer is yet with this, but I think it's very intelligent. I just don't know if it will ever play correct. But I love the guy. I don't think I've ever saw a wrestler and thought, I want to be that guy as much as Hangman. He's so cool.
And I don't mind this at all, because I know it was a discussion point the other day. He's so nice on social media as well, which makes me like, I got no problem with that. I don't care. Because the way I look at it, you could be a villainous type of person at work, but be a nice person in real life. Yeah. I know people like that who in an office, you're like, I cannot stand you. Then you hang out with them outside, like, oh, you're actually quite nice. You're an insane person inside. I agree. And I like the fact that Jay White won because, again, I think this is very unique to me. It's a great story for me. What does Hangman do now? Ever since he beat Swerve, he cannot get victories over this Jay White guy. I love it. I really, really enjoyed this match. However, it was not as good as Will Ospreay versus Carl Fletcher, which is just the stupidest. That was next. Yeah, it was next. I'm just checking. Listen, I'm going to repeat myself, but I always do it because so many people always say, don't like Will Ospreay style matches, not for me. Totally fine. Totally get it. You know, horses for courses, as we've already talked about. But if you pretend he is a bad professional wrestler, you are lying. You are lying to yourself. You are just trying to be an idiot on the internet. It's like, I don't like the way that Man City play football, but I know they're amazing football players. I know that Pep Guardiola,
that's such a good...
Right. Yeah, I know that Pep Guardiola is a genius. Now, the difference with an Ospreay is he's not dull and holds the ball. He's really exciting. He's incredible. And Carl Fletcher is basically his protege at this point. So he's right there with him. I said this on Ups and Downs. I'll say it here. I have nothing to say about it because what can I even say? It's like someone say, Simon, tell me why the Mona Lisa is so great. I can't. It's this brand new form of professional wrestling, which Will Ospreay has kind of been the king of, really. I mean, he's pushed it forward. Him and Ricochet are the guys that pushed it forward the most. And once again, it's like voodoo to me. The speed, the transitions, they make what are quite clearly ridiculous spots in the terms of reality look real. I don't know how they do it. Even when they screwed up that tombstone, they instantly came up with a cover. So it all looked like it was intention. They're amazing. And the fact Carl Fletcher won, again, I said this on Ups and Downs, I'll say it here. Don't you come and tell me that Will Ospreay doesn't understand wrestling. Will Ospreay totally understands wrestling. And he looks at the lay of the land and he goes, listen, of course I need wins right now. He needs it more. He needs to win more because otherwise, why did he turn heel? Why did he do all this stuff? Yeah. And now you've turned Carl Fletcher into a potential superstar. Thought it was brilliant. Thought it was really, really, really brilliant.
Yeah, I agree. And I've said in the last few weeks about how I think they've got Will Ospreay so right. They're getting Carl Fletcher so right. And it's a mixture of talent and timing and everything. But I mean, that guy's a superstar. Like, he's almost taken Ospreay and gone, I'm going to be slightly taller, slightly wider, slightly younger, slightly better looking, and I might be just as good as you. And that's what the point of all this is, you know? Like, when you're trying to make new stars, and again, Ospreay has a vested interest. He's best mates with him, so it's a lot easier to go, you know, I want to put you over. But
yeah, of course.
I also think it's a business decision. I don't think it's just him either. I don't think he has...
No, I agree.
I hope he doesn't have the say of going, no, I'm not doing that. Because, I mean, in no wrestling company should anyone be able to say yes or no to win or losing a match. You do what your employer says. But, yeah, as far as the match, I mean, there's, you know, I've got no notes. You know, it's really good. And like you said, it's a new way of wrestling. But what I hate is I don't want people to think it's what Ricochet and Ospreay did in 2016 or whatever it was.
It's not. It's not at all.
Yeah,
no.
that does look a little bit like a choreographed dance. I get that. It looks like a kung fu movie. It looks like anime come to life. This, what they're doing now, is what Shawn and Flair and that were doing, but taken to a different level because you can't see holes in it. It is full contact that we think, you know, it's Bret Hart meets Shawn. It's a mixture of all of it, you know. Yeah. And people say, oh, he takes a suplex and then gets up and he hits another thing. Yeah, because, I mean, watch any MMA fight. Someone gets thrown to the ground, he jumps up and knocks the guy out. You know, it's easy for us as wrestlers. When you land, it doesn't always hurt, but sometimes it really hurts. Does that make sense? Like, sometimes I'll take an FU and I land, and for real life, I go, that wasn't too bad, I'm just a little winded. But I could get up. Sometimes I take an F5. I cannot get up. Real life. Yeah, so take away what we're doing. I really can't get up sometimes. You know when you take one over the shoulder onto the knee? Can't get up for a bit. For real. Like, I don't know where I am. So it does make sense. It just doesn't make sense to if you're really into watching Jake the Snake Roberts matches.
Which is fine, by the way.
Which is
it
also
really
fine.
Is okay. Yeah.
Like, I think Ospreay is amazing. I think he's potentially the best wrestler of all time. I really do. He's not my favorite wrestler. I mean, I like Edge, and people think his matches are really dull, but I think he's all. Talk about people you want to be. I want to be Edge. Edge is my favorite guy. So it really doesn't mean. It goes back to what you said about Adam Cole. People ripping into his body, and someone on TikTok mentioned it. Like, do they not see the talent he has? And what you were saying earlier, he works out all the time. He just doesn't have the diet right, or he doesn't have an interest in having the diet right. But he's still, guess what? He can't do those matches if he's
That's
not.
the thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Athletes come in, you watch the NFL, there's 300-pound guys with big guts. They can run a 40-yard dash faster than half the guys in the WWE ring. So
I don't forget that point because it's so important. Maybe that's how he has to look to do these matches. And that counts. He still looks like he can kick somebody's. That's like Kevin Owens. I'm pretty sure if Kevin Owens didn't look like that, you wouldn't believe a Kevin Owens match as much. He needs like a brawler.
Kevin Owens is an athlete. He just doesn't look like one. I'm going to say that for myself. I'm somewhat of an athlete, but I mean, I don't necessarily look like it. But I work out 5 times a week. I don't look like you. But that's because you have a lot more knowledge. You're a lot more. I'm about to put you over, but like a lot more willpower because you're sticking to that diet. I'm not. I'm going to eat Harry. I ate a lot of Haribo last night. I shouldn't. I mean, if you ask me to do a Spanish fly, I'm going to do a Spanish fly. But
that's really interesting because if you ask me to do a Spanish fly, I'm going to go absolutely not. No.
But there's a thing in wrestling. Arn Anderson said it, and Ric Flair. The people that don't get injured in wrestling tend to have a little extra fat because it absorbs a lot more. So Adam Cole and Kevin Owens, these guys. If you look across, Adam Cole just came back from a gigantic injury. I mean, his injuries have been concussion or a broken leg. That is nothing to do with wrestling. He jumped down off of something. Anyone could roll their ankle and snap it. That just happens. Concussions happen because he wrestles a very cool new style.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Kevin Owens breaks his hand randomly, and he'll be like, "How'd you do it?" He was like, "I was doing DIY at home." It's like, but then he goes and jumps off every scaffolding, and he's fine. So there is something to the wrestler body, and it does have a little extra fat.
I don't want everyone to have the same body. Like Man on the Moon said, there's a difference between muscles for show and muscles for go. Let's not stick on that one. Sometimes I'm worried on the latter. Let's not.
Well, you can tell if you're for show because if you take a 360 out of the ring and tear your bicep, I always go, that's not.
Well, thankfully, no. Thankfully not that. I just usually gassed out my mind after getting beaten up by 3 people. Can't breathe. But no, I don't want everyone to have the same body because then I couldn't appreciate the jacked guys. That's how it works. If everyone's jacked, then no one's jacked because everyone's jacked. And Carl Fletcher. I think Will Ospreay's in much better shape now than he ever has been.
Oh, he looks great.
Will Ospreay back in 2016 is a bit like a stick, as is Ricochet actually. But also the 2016 match has to happen to get to where we are now. It's all part of the evolution process. I'm pretty sure. It'd be difficult to find one now. There's probably a Bret Hart match you can find when you're like, well, it's okay, and then you watch him a year later. Oh my gosh, it's the greatest wrestler I've ever seen in my life.
Mad.
I really want to make this clear because I get it. Sometimes I hear people talk like this and I get a bit frustrated. You're allowed to hate these matches. You really are. I don't like it. They don't sell, blah, blah. But to ignore the athletic prowess or the fact that he has created, along with other people, this style that is unlike anything I've ever seen, I think to ignore that is silly. I just do. And again, it doesn't mean you can't prefer, someone the other day who was very prominent was like, well, if you don't like this style of match or you prefer a WWE style, you're an idiot. You're not an idiot. You're allowed to prefer the WWE style match. Of course you are. It depends what you want that day. But also, I think that's like when people... No, I don't want to get down there, actually. But it's like when people talk in absolute. But it's like when people talk in absolutes. Some days I wake up and I do want Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns for WrestleMania 40. Some days I wake up and I want Will Ospreay versus Carl Fletcher. I do because it's like some days I want to watch a comedy and some days I want to watch a romance. And this was, it was brilliant. It just was brilliant. Again,
how much confidence you got having a guy to take that tombstone onto the stairs? Because I know it didn't need to be that far away either. I know.
Why did they do it?
Yeah, the stairs have like a V in them, don't they? If his knee goes to one side and slips down that knee thing, Ospreay's head basically gets cut between the two, and it'd probably break it, probably break his skull. Genuinely, let alone neck. That's the thing. It's really
because well, we talked about the Kevin Owens, Randy Orton pile driver. You can do a pile driver super safe if you want to, right? That's fine, whatever. That's a different conversation. But when you are leaping onto a hard surface, you could slip, you could fall, anything can happen. I wouldn't do it. And that's why I respect them even more, because that's proper balls, that is.
Question, when you were young, did you used to wrestle with your friends, in your front room?
Always.
Obviously, don't do it at home. We used to obviously, I don't know, we're going on a little bit of a tangent. We'd put all the big pillows from a sofa into the middle of the room. And you do power bombs, these kind of things. I always remember, and this has only come back to me recently, was the go-to move we would do for a very long time was a pile driver onto, one slab of the sofa or whatever. But I remember thinking growing up that was such a, I don't want to use the word. It's a not a real move because it's really easy to take.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
and
yeah.
as I got older, it got banned for real and stuff, and I was just like,
"Oh, it's the worst move. It's the worst move of all of them." Yeah.
and I was just like, "Why did we used to do? We used to do it just like sometimes Joel just grabbed me, put me, and that's how I'd sit on the sofa. He would just put me in, and then."
Dude, I kid you not. We were once playing football outside, and we were doing like 2-on-2 with a goalkeeper. And my mate, who's a lot bigger than me, I was tiny. I was quite young. He just had.
I saw the picture online. Yeah,
big jeans. Yeah. Yeah, right. And we scored a goal. He tombstoned me. Now he actually pulled it off perfectly. Like he cushioned my head. But what if he hadn't? I'd be dead now. It's ridiculous.
It's
the
mad.
stuff you do as kids.
Yeah, don't
It's so
do it
stupid.
at home, guys. Don't do it.
No, it's honestly not worth it. Yeah, exactly. There's loads these days. When I started training, it's really hard to find a school. Now it's super easy to go to.
There's every corner. Super Money one coming soon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. Daniel Garcia versus Jack Perry, TNT title. I just didn't care about it. No, that's not fair. The feud just kind of was just a bit. Well, I just didn't get anything from it. Again, look, I like the fact they tried. Hell yeah. All the stuff with the kidnapping made me laugh. So that was good. But it just. Well, you can't win them all. That's all it is. I'm sure for someone else, this is probably their feud of the year. But I just watched. I was like, okay, I like Jack Perry a lot. I like Daniel Garcia a lot. But it's not really clicking. It's just life. I can't help it. It's just how I felt about it. Match was good. They're very, very good wrestlers. I think the crowd by this point were getting a bit tired, which makes sense. Although there are a few matches they were quite quiet on, and this was one as well. But I like the fact that Daniel Garcia won. I think there was no need to carry on what Jack Perry was doing. And we are pushing Daniel Garcia. Plus, he signed a new contract. Plus, he never really got his revenge on MJF, so we needed something to sort of, get him over. So in terms of business, to use that stupid term, absolutely spot on. But this was a match that I think you could have done on Dynamite. I understand that it has more power on pay-per-view. Of course it does. And you want to, but it's a TNT title, which is the TV title. The name is the TNT title. And I think if you would save this for Dynamite this week, and just giving it its own spotlight, put it in the main event, and had Daniel Garcia win there, I just think it would have had more impact. And what if you had a really good crowd? No, this crowd was good. It was over 10,000 people. But maybe the crowd just got into it more, which can happen. If this was one of the matches where it's nothing to do with their star power, I'm sure they added to the show. But I just think we could have held off the really cool title change and put it in its own 25 minutes at the end of Dynamite, and it would have been great. That's just how I felt about it.
Not to sound... repetitive, but I totally agree. I was gonna say, I think that match, if it was first on the card, might have been an amazing opener. Everyone would go, I'm so happy, because we all want to see Daniel Garcia in that position, and you can tell those two are, again, like we were talking about Hangman and Jay White, they're probably just there with them as the guys that are kind of ready to go. But when you're match 9 of 12, I don't know if there is any benefit of being on the pay-per-view when you could have been on television. And again, like you said, 25 minutes, big entrances, big introductions, a match, no outside interference. Garcia wins, and have confetti come down and have him win the title.
Yeah, do the whole thing. Last thing you see, yeah.
No shenanigans. It doesn't then go backstage and Moxley's trying to kill some extra and Marina Shafir's, driving a car through someone.
I do. We'll get there. I really like Marina Shafir. Remind me to talk about it. She's won me over.
But yeah, that segment, and it ends with him. The copyright comes up. End of show. We would have gone, wow, he's a star. And that's it.
I agree.
Yep. I really, again, if he was headlining the pay-per-view, if he was opening the pay-per-view, if there was only 7 matches and he was number 3 of 7, it would have been fine. But I really just think I don't know where the benefit is of being 1 of 12 matches and you're just snuck in the middle there where the crowd are now tired and going, I just want to see Moxley now. Can we move on?
Yeah, I think you just don't need to do everything. Dynamite can be used. We do not see enough title changes on TV from all the companies. No. I think it's so important to do them, not too much because then you lose the allure, but to plan in a good 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe even 10's probably, that's one a month. 5, 6, maybe 5 a year. Then you can do one every, just do some. We don't do enough is what I'm saying, but it can just really impact stuff sometimes. Like when Jey Uso won. Was that a pay-per-view or that was Raw? That was Raw, right? When Jey Uso beat Braun Breaker?
Yeah.
Was that Raw?
It was a Raw.
Yeah. It was, and that really, I loved it. I felt good for the day. I was like, woo! Yeah. I thought it was really awesome. So, Man on the Moon says, like when Bryan won it All In or Reigns won the title at Survivor Series. Is that in reference to something else that we said? I don't know, because that's on a pay-per-view. Whatever. Maybe it's talking about confetti, actually. I think it's talking about confetti. But yeah, that's just how I felt. I thought we could have really sort of just shone a spotlight on Daniel Garcia and But it was still a really good match. They are really, really good. And let's not forget, man, like WWE were desperate to get Daniel Garcia. They see him as the next Daniel Bryan Danielson. That's not a fluke. And people forget he's like 20. I'll tell you how old he is because I've got my running order open here. He's super young. Like, he's 26. He's 26. Mad. You give him another 10 years, and I get why people are saying, "Oh, he's not going to be like." No one's going to be like Bryan Danielson. He's too good. But in terms of his technical wrestling and all of that, if he can then sort of breach into it and then add all the little bits, much like Bryan Danielson did, by the way, you can go back and watch very early Bryan Danielson, and it is very, who's this guy? Really good, but what? I don't get it. And then one day you're like, oh my gosh. It's the
exactly.
Best. So WWE don't get that funny about people for fun. They're like, man, we've got to get this guy. And they didn't, which is a coup to AEW. I am going to let you talk first on this one because I want to know what you thought about it without any talk from me. Takeshita Ricochet, AEW. Well, I couldn't believe some of the things I saw online. But yeah, what did you think about it?
Maybe I'm going to go along with the online. I don't want to make a stance, but I'm not enjoying a Ricochet so far. I've actually, and this is probably a horrible take, and I apologize to TikTok. I think Ricochet was better in WWE. I don't get it at the minute. I'm not. I think Takeshita's a star. Those two are, like we were talking about, Will and Kyle. It's unbelievable, but that's how I feel. I go, really cool. It's like if you showed me a really fun meme and it was really funny, and I go, that was really good, and then I don't think about that meme ever again. But in the moment, I thought that was really fun. That's how I feel about this whole situation. And Ricochet, but this is Ricochet more than Takeshita. Are you about to say something completely different, or are you about to agree?
Well, no. I think I enjoyed it more than most. I was surprised by how much, because dude, I think you're actually in the majority. I think a lot of people felt like it was like eating, I don't know, eating like a ice cream from a Mr. Whippy after you've had Ben and Jerry's or something. It was just like, it's nice, but I kind of seen it. That's what people were. But I was just like, it's so difficult. How do I even explain? I did enjoy it, right? However, at the same time, do I think Ricochet has got a little bit lost in AEW at the moment? I do. But this is what I also said on Ups and Downs, and this is why I think it ties into the match. We didn't announce this on Dynamite. We announced it in the middle of the week. And I think that just, you're going to get a good match on pay-per-view from these two guys. It's impossible. Even if they did a 3 out of 5 star match, it would still be probably better than most 3 out of 5 matches. But to put them in a position where it gets announced late, they didn't have any build on TV, no promo offs. They were just part of a big multi-man match, which kind of was featuring other bouts that were coming up. You do just get lost by the nature of it. Yeah. You can't help it. So then I think when you get to this, it's harder to invest because, one, if you didn't see the social media post, you're like, wait, Takeshita versus Ricochet is happening on this show. So that's where I think the issue was. I think we needed more highlighting building into it. Then I actually think people would have enjoyed this more. Yeah. And the other reason I liked it is because I think it shows how spoiled we are right now, which is a good thing. Yeah. Because if you took this out and watched it in a bubble, you'd probably be like, oh my gosh, it's the greatest thing I've ever seen. But because we're getting it all the time now, of course that's what happens, you know? If you start eating... Well, it's like the boxing analogy, right? It's really hard to train when you wake up in your silk pajamas. Exactly. Your whole life changes when your viewpoint changes and when you're getting good matches all the time. Oh, time to pull the jigsaw piece into TikTok.
Oh, no.
Oh, good. So, done.
It's
First
so
time.
hard.
Smashed
it's so
it.
hard.
Smashed it. And Takeshi's going to be fine because he doesn't have the Ricochet has historical chatter on his. I mean, again, we wouldn't be here today without a Ricochet. Ricochet is part of that movement. So, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending how you see it, there is just more expectation on him. Yeah. And I think he's been really, really good. But I think the issue is people want amazing. Yeah. they want. I think he'll get there, but I think he needs a feud. I think he needs a story. And I think I don't like it. Every time he cuts a promo, people literally just jump down his throat now. Yeah. His promos have been fine. They haven't been... I don't know who's the best promo right now. Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns. They haven't been at that level, but there are people cutting way worse promos than Ricochet.
Yeah. It's
and
possible.
people just like to take shots now, and I don't like that because he's fine. His promos they're good even. They're okay. They do what they need to do. They're serviceable.
I was going to say with that promo he's never really had to deliver a promo like Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes this week. That's a promo. That's trying to get bums in seats.
Right.
That's
dry. You're right.
In wrestling, what we have to do sometimes is, here's 10 minutes, fill it. And at the end of it, all I've got to do is say, I'm against Simon Miller. So I go, well, look at you all here today. And then you go, I've done this, I've done that. He's done this, I've done that. We're having a match tonight, by the way. That's the ethos. Like Seth Rollins, for example, he's not a promo guy. But if you ask him to do 20 minutes to start a Raw, where he just says, this is Monday Night Rollins and here's some more information about tonight and you're about to watch, he does it. And that's what he's been given. And he's done it. It's been passable. Like AJ Styles does that. It's passable. He hasn't really had a really emotional storyline where he has to get, I don't know. But two things I was going to say about the Ricochet thing is Ricochet's match with Takeshita and then Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher. The difference is getting your energy from Sugar, me, or getting your energy from a bag of rice, Simon. One is going to burn off quick and you're going to go, cool, forgot about it, but it was great. And sometimes you enjoy that one way more than rice. But the other one has more, in 6 hours, you're going to be feeling it still. Do you know what I mean?
Best analogy ever.
Does that make sense? So you go, whereas I'm going to be fatigued and I'm a little bit fat over here going, I'm actually having a crash now. I actually feel bad about myself. But so this is fitness advice as well as wrestling advice. But with that as well, what you were saying about them getting announced late is we were talking about what are the pros of being match 10 of 12 and 11 of 12. Sometimes it's almost a detriment because do you know what some of those fans did? As much as they loved them, they went, oh my God, they've added another match. I just want to watch the main event. We've been here too long.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah,
so now you're getting heat on
happens.
them. You're getting heat on the guys. Whereas if they had opened up Dynamite this week with a 20-minute banger and it had ended with Daniel Garcia and Jack Perry.
Oh, yeah. The Takeshita Ricochet should have been on Dynamite. 100% should have been on Dynamite.
And people would have gone, that's one of the best TV matches ever. That was one of the best title changes ever. Instead, they were just lost. And the pay-per-view would have been 10 matches and it would have been more digestible.
And that Dynamite opens and closes with 2 title matches, one with a change, one without a change, and it'd be amazing. Yeah, it's true. It's true.
I don't see why they're so like, these two are stars. They have to be on the pay-per-view. So you don't, like the last show when they did, was it 2 out of 3 falls? And it was Axiom versus the Bull. I can't remember what it was.
Hologram versus Beast Mortis.
Yeah.
Don't put Axiom in there. Axiom's in NXT.
I was just like, I was sat there watching it. I was like, this is really fun. Then that one came on. I almost got annoyed. I was like,
no, dude, we
were flowing so great. What? And it was a really good match. Like at the end of it, that was mad. I would show that to people. Be like, look how mad wrestling is. But I was just like, I was flowing well, and I was thinking I can have lunch at the end of this. Now I can't because it's going to go another hour. It's just
no, it's true, and it's funny you say that. I'm going to get on my high horse because my show. I don't know what you want, but no, like so. I won the Progress title 2 shows ago.
Yeah, you did.
And the last show, they said, "Oh, can you just do the hosting job?" Didn't have a host, and we can. I said, "Can I turn it into a celebration like they do on Raw?" Absolutely, cool. It's really fun. I had a good time. So when I came out to host the show, I cut a welcome to the show. It wasn't a promo. It was a welcoming speech.
Yeah.
But it wasn't even that though, because it was deliberately, I'm not in character. We have to mention the belt, otherwise, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But welcome, thanks for coming. Have a great time. I won't name who it is. And listen, my mate sent me to this with the laugh emoji, tears emoji. I don't know how he found it. But it was 2 people reviewing that Progress show, and bless them for watching independent wrestling reviewing it. There's one guy, he's like 60 years old. He was face palming going, I hate that Simon Miller. He came out and cut that kind of a promo. What is rubbish? It was like, I was so angry because it's like, dude, criticize my promos till the cows come home, right? That's not a promo. If someone sends me out there and says, Simon, can you host the show? If I go out and start cutting a promo, I get back there, they go, what are you doing? Your job today is to be a conduit for everybody else, and we've agreed to this. And that's what annoys me. I say that because you picked up on the same thing with the Ricochet promo thing. It's like, he just did the job he was told to do, and now you're criticizing him for something else. And again, everyone should be able to take criticism. It's not a problem. If this guy definitely hates me, this guy, that's fine. You can hate me. I get it. I'm a very acquired taste. But don't then start saying that promo was bad when it's not a promo. That just means you haven't got the intelligence to what has just happened. Anyone should be able to go, he's the host, so he's gone back to his hosting job, because that's my job for the day. And I think that's a problem. And sometimes you need to realize that match was a bit weird. Well, maybe that's what they were told to do. Do you know what I mean? It's not always on the person that is in the ring. And that's the only time it really gets I get a bee in my bonnet, because I'm like, that's unfair. That's unfair criticism because you haven't judged it.
Well, if you think of heel Miz hosting WrestleMania, he's a heel. He gets beaten up by Pat McAfee. Shane McMahon blows out his quad. But then when he does the attendance, he doesn't go 60,000 people. He goes, guys, this is amazing. Welcome to the Eminem part of the show, and here's Fortnite, and here's Travis Scott, and guess what? 60,000 people. Be really proud of yourself. And then he goes back to being heel later. Like, I didn't go, oh, rubbish Shield promo. Because I know what it is. It's him just being...
But imagine you tune into Progress and I came out and started cutting a promo on the entire roster. People would be angry, and rightfully so. Anyway, I wanted to get that out there because it's rare for someone to get under my skin, but you did it, sir. So congratulations to you.
I'm going to find this guy.
No, I'll send it to you.
He's on the
Bobby
show next
Lashley.
week, by the way.
I get mad. Bobby Lashley versus Swerve Strickland. I love this. I can't help it. I just do. Bobby Lashley is the man. I love the Hurt Syndicate. And Swerve Strickland, I said this when I saw, is after he got released from WWE and he came to do a Progress show and he took on Cara Noir. And I'd only been my own, well, you can't know everybody, but I only know Swerve from, what was his NXT name? I can't even remember. Swerve Scott, right? That was his NXT name. Was it Swerve Scott? Something like that. I think it was. Whatever.
I think of him as what was his name in Lucha Underground? I always call him that, and I've completely forgotten. Killshot.
Killshot. Yeah, no, it wasn't that in any. But yeah, either way, I should have known from Lucha Underground. I don't think I ever put 2 and 2 together at one point. But I watched him fight Cara Noir in Progress, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's like a wrestling chameleon. He completely adapted what I expected from him to match what he knew, and he did it here as well. The man just gets it. He's like, I got to get beaten up by Bobby Lashley, but I'm going to get beaten up in the best possible way I can. And he has that flurry towards the end, and MVP was doing his thing. And I just thought it was wonderful. I thought it was wonderful. And some people, I was very, very WWE. I don't care. I don't think that's a detriment to the show. The fact it happened in match number 11, and I finished it going, well, I can't wait to see where that goes. I think they're all very, very... what is best for the show and where we're going, human beings. And I think that comes across. I loved this match. I really did. One of my favorite matches on the whole show.
I think Bobby Lashley generally is one of the more underrated wrestlers of the last 4 or 5 years.
Absolutely. So good.
He had a couple title runs in the last 4 or 5 years. Like when he came back in 2018 with the headband on, he had a load of sisters or something.
Oh, that was bad. One of which was Max Caster, by the way. There you go.
We didn't know where he was going, but I mean, he really found his feet with him and Drew. Did some of their matches, if you go back and watch them in the pandemic, are really good. Her business was unbelievable. But I mean, even later in the WWE, he was similar to Sheamus. I think people look at Sheamus and go, oh, he's a big, jacked guy or whatever. He can't have good matches. He's 6'4". Like this kind of weird trope. And then you watch Sheamus matches. That match he had with Braun on Raw, my God, like one of my favorite TV matches in ages. And Bobby Lashley's like, people look at him and go, he can't move. This guy's one of the biggest athletes of all time. He's an MMA fighter. He's everything.
He's so good, yeah.
His wrestling level is so good. And he's just put it together with being like just super handsome, like jacked.
And
great
massive,
gear.
yeah.
So cool. I mean, you watch his vlogs. He's got 30 properties on the go. He's out of control, this guy. Getting up at 5 to work out before he takes his kids to school. Like, what is this guy? I mean, I just think he's so... the only reason I'm not mentioning Swerve is because obviously you've kind of done it, but Bobby, I think he's you forget as well, he's a TNA champ. He's just such a good wrestler. And I think people sometimes forget, and then when they remember, they're like, wow, that's really mad how good he is. And as far as WWE style, I mean, you just watch 10 AEW style matches. We can have one that's different. It's good to be different. So.
I did, you are right. And I think it was more them sitting down, what does this need? Especially Swerve. I think Swerve is his whole job is that what does this need? What can I do? Hence why he's throwing himself onto concrete blocks and stuff. Oh, that's what we need. Okay, that's what. And Swerve is again. So I like some people being mad. You should be mad when Swerve loses. That's the whole point. He's a top star, he's former world champion. You should be pissed off. But if anyone understands what to do, it is Swerve and Bob. All of them is work of art. This it's what I love about wrestling.
Yeah.
Nothing fancy, just builds. Smart, good, fun, knew their place on the show and what they had to do. Awesome. 6.25 stars in the Tokyo Dome. And, right, Moxley versus Orange Cassidy for the AEW title. Lack jeopardy. Never thought Orange Cassidy was going to win. Apart from that one amazing near fall. So more power to them. They did get me on that. But it was always going to go this way. Cassidy gets killed. I can't really comment on it until I see Dynamite. I liked it within a bubble. Thought it was quite fun.
Yeah.
I did. And I think Orange Cassidy is one of my favorite wrestlers. It's one of the reasons I love that AEW exists. Maybe now he would have got the opportunity, but he wouldn't have done 5 years ago. He just never would have made it WWE, which is hugely unfair because he's really good. He understands character, and I like his promos as well. I really do. I think he's a really well all-rounded, fun wrestler. But I get it what we're doing with John Moxley right now. But yeah, it all depends on it's the ending, which I knew that Moxley was going to win. And I like the fact we're highlighting, look at all these people that are in the world title scene. You got Christian with his contract, you got Hangman and Page, you got Jay White, you got Darby Allin. There's probably somebody else that I'm forgetting. But who is the next challenger? Is it going to be Darby? Because obviously he committed crime at the end of the show when he tried to kill them in their car. Yeah, but I did like it I liked it for a close of a pay-per-view. I think if you have a chaotic story, you should end with chaos. Like you don't need to end with just Jon Moxley winning and standing there. But the story at the moment needs the big, oh my gosh, I didn't see that coming. And I'm sure that it's there. They just don't know when to pull the trigger. So it's one of those ones, you know what, I'm saying this in a really good way. It means it's a week-to-week thing. And I need to, it is a little bit, someone's just said, Man on the Moon says it's a bit confusing at the moment. I do think that's fair. Yeah. But if it's week to week, you're allowed to be confusing as long as you get to week 9 and then something happens, you're like, oh, I get it now. I mean, TV shows do that. Yeah. Do that all the time. And if we don't get there, absolutely, you're allowed to be like, well, I don't like it. For sure. Totally fine. But the thing I want to say about Marina Shafir is I'm such a fan of her beating people up with one hand while she holds the briefcase. It's the small things in wrestling. Why can't you put the briefcase down? Who's going to steal it? No one. No one would steal it. But the fact she won't do it, it's those little things that always put you over the top for me. Yeah. And now I just love Marina Shafir. I do. I think she's great. I think she's wonderful.
Yeah, I'm glad Marina's also getting an opportunity because in WWE she never really truly got that opportunity. I really like kind of how they're doing Darby. It feels like Sting in like 99. It feels very, when you don't think you've seen him, here he is. And it's usually in a chaotic, fall down from the rafters or he's backstage or, appears in the street or whatever it is. So there's something very WCW about it. But there's also something very WWE in 2000. When how many pay-per-views ended with Triple H trying to get in a car and Austin would pick it up and drop it?
Yeah.
There was someone getting hit by a car, Austin. It's always Austin, really. But I don't mind it, especially on not a pay. Like if Wembley ended like that, I think I'd be a bit like, it has too much grandeur. Like maybe just end it with someone like they did, Daniel Bryan in the cafe. I think for a full gear, equivalent of WWE doing a TLC pay-per-view in December, let's say, I think you can end it with a bit of like cliffhangery murder. Attempted, anyway. I mean, that's how their pay-per-views do end, is attempted murder usually, but I don't mind it. I love Orange Cassidy. I love Orange Cassidy. I think he's unbelievable.
I do, yeah.
And like you said about without AEW, he doesn't exist necessarily in this way. Because look at Tozawa, unbelievable professional wrestler. He does a dance. That's where Orange and Cassidy would be. He hit Santino Morella's spot. I don't even know if it's that because he's more talented than Santino as far as a wrestler. Santino might have the best acting chops in wrestling, but I mean, he doesn't get this platform. I mean, I love it when Orange Cassidy gets serious and he bleeds. He was getting beaten up by 5 people and he still kept trying to give the sloth kicks. I mean,
I know. Some people got so mad at that. I'm like, don't you get it? You must get it by now.
Yeah, have you not watched action films? It's the equivalent of like someone laying on the floor and flipping him off, even though he knows he's lost. Like everyone goes, that's so cool. He's just doing that. It's
exactly, but in a family-friendly way.
Yeah, exactly. The clawing in the back. I just want to tell that story of Jon Moxley before he got to WWE and FCW and all this. I don't know if anyone remembers this viral clip of him on the deathmatch scene, and he had a jigsaw cutter, and it just goes back in. It doesn't actually do anything, but because he does it, it's moving the guy's blood, so it looks like it's leaving a line, so it's opening him up. It's not. It's just moving the current blood that's on his head, and he talked about it in a shoot interview where he was like, people went mad and thought I was like a genuine nutter. He was like, it's not a real jigsaw cut. It was just floppy. He said, but it was moving the blood across, so it looked like it was cutting him. This was what happened. Orange Cassidy had already cut his back. And what he did is he does it already. And he thought, my word, if I grab it, no one's going to see it. And they're going to think I'm opening him up. And it's exactly what's happened. You can see him laughing, almost probably going back to the jigsaw thing, going, I've just broken the internet because people are going to be, that's disgusting, that's awful. I saw wrestlers tweeting about it going, if he did that to me, I'd stop working.
Amazing.
And he was like, what? Rub his little fingers along your back? Like, what are we doing?
How dare you?
Yeah, get real. It's mad. But no, I like you said, in a vacuum, I enjoyed it. I don't understand where it's going yet, but isn't that kind of the point? You have to watch Dynamite.
For sure, exactly. And if we get to January and we're still baffled, then we've made a mistake. Of course, you have to tell people what's happening.
Let's just hope no one breaks their leg and we don't see him for 18 months, and then we've got to try and pick this up in 2 years.
Talk me about it. I really like Jon Moxley as well. I think they're lucky to have Jon Moxley because if nothing else, I guess he's a bit of a polarizing figure, but he cares. He really cares, and I think having someone at the top of your show that gets why AEW is so important, even if it's just from a landscape point of view, is imperative. So, shout out.
What do you think of his beard?
Jon Moxley's beard. When people start to say that I look like him, I'm like, if I'm sick of this, bald and beard. Let's compare. Thank you.
I think you're way more attractive.
But it's just bald and beard. Compare compare. It's like that's all it comes
it's
down
a bald,
to.
and a lot of people are balding a beard. You don't look the
Most
same.
bald people have beards because that's why we do
You
it.
have to. That's why I can't do it yet. I got to try and figure this out. But he's shaved it in, isn't he? And it's got a bit longer, but it's bald here.
He looks a bit like
it scares me a little bit.
He looks a bit like a French villain from a movie. Like
It's very
he's going to talk about baguettes or something like that.
Yeah, it's mad. That beard really is quite a statement, I think.
I like it too. I think it's smart when people do that because it will now differentiate him when he goes back to a baby face. Oddly, he can shave it off and people won't notice it, but they'll be like, oh. It's like Dominic and his moustache. Rey Mysterio said that this week. He goes, I actually think a lot of the heat is coming from the moustache. He said it obviously with jest, but you could see it in his eyes. It's like, but I kind of think this too.
Well, when you look at Dom without the moustache and the mullet, it doesn't seem right anymore. You're like, oh, it's added to it.
Oh, man.
But
Dom, man. What a year.
I honestly love that guy. He's fun.
I do too. He's going to be world champion one day.
We'll talk. Oh, I hope so. I honestly, he's my favorite wrestler.
Really? Number one?
Yeah, he's number one in a minute.
Kevin Owens is my number one. Kevin Owens could be my number one ever. Oh, that we'll get into some of that, but that promo he cut on SmackDown, I was on the floor. And Cody's come back. It's so good.
I like the fact Cody just tore off one shoulder as well of his shirt when he got excited.
I know, that's right. Why not, right? Just one button. Bing. Yeah. And the CM Punk stuff as well. Again, I think we'll wait till this week and we can talk about it once we've got the extra stuff. But I mean, that is such. I was so happy. I really was because I was like, they never would have done this 5 years ago. Never, because they would have just been like, I don't know why they just wouldn't have done. And it's ballsy. It's a ballsy thing to do. Like I'm such a fan of it. Such a fan of it. It's ridiculous.
That's gonna be so good. And I didn't know how they did that was a double taping, wasn't it?
Yeah, they've given them all the time off for Thanksgiving, which is cool. So
but they did. So that was Friday. They did a double taping, but the week before I thought they did a double taping.
Yeah, they're giving them loads of time off. Well, no, I think it's twofold. I think they're giving them time off, but someone made a great point. I think that the USA Network, because they got that cheap Raw deal, because of the Netflix sort of gap, they only paid for a certain amount of shows. So WWE's like, we're not giving you more show, as in tapings. So we're not going to pay for our own flipping shows. You know what I mean? So that's why they're doubling up. It'll be different next year. Everyone's getting worried about it. It's going to be 6 hours long. You'll be bored to tears when you have 6 hours of wrestling to watch a week.
But I love the fact that he didn't have this was a CM Punk on a double taping. So it's not.
Well, I don't know if he's on the other show. We don't know yet because we don't know everything. But I think my gut is they pulled the trigger here because they're not actually going to do that much on the Go Home show with it, apart from video packages and backstage stuff. So we'll do the big, because you can't have CM Punk come out twice in the same show. Well, I guess you could. I don't know. I don't think you need to do anything else. I think it should be ambiguous now and a few backstage skits and. That's
Heyman dressed like Solo, winking, and all sorts. There's so much going on.
Dude, just do it. Just turn him heel. Why not? Let him join the Bloodline 2.0. Some people go, you can't do that. Just do it. If it doesn't work, you can go, lol, joking, he'll be back with Roman Reigns. Like, it does seem so easily fixed. So easily fixed.
Yeah, a lot of enjoyment.
What a great way to end. Martin Parry in the TikTok chat. I think we need Naked Midian to come back twice in a show. There you go. Naked Midian.
Honestly, I love
Midian. I tell you a story about Dennis Knight. I have conversations with him sometimes on Instagram. He's a very nice man, and he got into watching YouTube content, and I met him at a convention, and he said very nice things. So we catch up every now and then, and he seems like a very pleasant, nice guy. So there you go. And he totally got Naked Midian. Totally gets it, because I got my job. That got me on TV for like a year. And I was like, that's a worker, brother.
Saying that as well, the Ministry of Darkness, Undertaker, when he was in Ministry, had the really scary looking low beard.
Dude, have you gone back and watched the Ministry stuff? How did they get away with it?
Don't know.
That's some controversial stuff.
They're trying to crucify people.
Some of the stuff he says, I'm like, you can't talk like that. That's like real on the edge. They would never do that now. They don't even talk about political stuff now because they don't want to divide the audience.
Yeah.
And they're getting like hardcore religious. That is something else. That is something else, right? Well, what a way to end on the Undertaker Ministry of Darkness from 1990. 9, I would suppose.
9, it's 9.
I think because 98 he had the SummerSlam match with Austin, and then he lost, and then he slowly started transforming into. It didn't last that long then. The Ministry of Darkness only lasted like 8 months or something, because by 2000 he's injured.
Yeah, and that beard and that music, I have good memories. That rocked up version of his music is so cool.
Undertaker's Volume 3 WWF music theme, I think is the best. I think is the best entrance track of all time.
Is Volume 3 the green CD? Do you remember buying the CD?
No, that's Volume 4. Volume 3 is the one with the grey front. That's my favourite one ever. Do you remember the grey front with the WWF logo on it? That's number 3. Number 4 is the
Volume 5
had
neon green
one. That's right. Volume 5 is the one with the rock on it. That's right.
Yeah, I love that one.
there was nothing better than buying those CDs. I mean, we're giving away our age, but there's nothing better than those CDs. Those CDs with the flipping, man,
So
good
good.
old times.
Yeah.
We're so old, it's awesome. And on that note, we're going to wrap up the show. That's the longest I've ever talked about a pay-per-view, I think. That's quite fun. I enjoyed it. Scott, where can...
I was going to say, maybe people want us to talk about AEW more. So, do you know what I mean? We'll find out.
Well,
Let us know in the comments,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, some people get so mad, but I'm all going to talk about. I love all wrestling. I don't care. Like, I just want to talk about wrestling. Scott, where can people find you?
We are TBA Wrestling. Me and the Invisible Joe that is not here because he's at work. TBA Wrestling on all forms of social media. Just follow us there.
Done. There you go. Simon316. If you're on YouTube right now, subscribe, leave a comment, interact, do all that kind of a thing. Is there anything else that I need to plug? TikTok, Simon Miller 316 or Simon J Miller. I'm both. I still don't understand how I'm both, but I am both. People said they find me with both, but that's fine. I mean, just follow me or follow TBA on theirs, and you can come join our live streams. And yeah, we should have answered more questions today, but we got taken away by talking about the pay-per-view. And this is the longest podcast we've done in ages. So I will say, actually, at the Progress show yesterday, I should have told you this. It's only just come back into my mind. Someone did say they're very much enjoying you and Joey and me doing these podcasts.
Oh, really?
So that was very, very cool. Yeah, that was very, very cool.
Hey, we're an added bonus.
There you go. Well, I mean, you're just part of the show.
I like that. That's fun. That's fun.
Well, I did a solo one last week just because I had 45 minutes before I had to go out, and it was weird. I mean, somehow I can just talk into a camera. I don't know how I do this, but I much prefer someone talking back at me. And by the end of it, I feel like I'm in some strange, like, Narnia land. I don't really know what's going on. It's very, very weird.
It's a skill to be able to talk on your own like that.
Well,
it's a real skill.
I guess I might say, how do I use it? But I guess I have used it for the last 8 years. So just living in my own world. But genuinely, thank you very much for joining us. Make sure you follow us. Oh, I know podcast apps as well. 5 stars, leave a comment, all of that kind of thing. That really does help. And I mean, we'll probably be back next week. We will be back next week. Maybe we'll do another. Probably not. We'll be back at some point. Definitely next week. That's the way to put it. Take care, my friends. Goodbye.